Take a look behind the curtain with a real whistleblower and American patriot. Prepare to embrace the uncomfortable truth because this program has no time for comforting lies. Here is civil liberties enthusiast, Second Amendment defender, and recovering FBI agent Kyle Seraphin.
Well, hello, my friends. Welcome to the Kyle Seraphin Show. Today's Monday. It's August the 17th. And we're a few minutes behind schedule here. That's not the worst thing for a Monday morning. Got a lot of information to cover, but the biggest one is we have one of the most petty and maybe tone-deaf people running this country at this moment. It has a lot of implications. It's not to say that there's a ton of better options, but I'm going to show you, I guess, the best of what Republicans have to offer. And just so we're on the same page, it's people over the age of 80 that don't know what's going on with people who are under the age of 80. That's rough. We also had a couple of updates. I guess today is the day we have now seen the expiration of the Iran nuclear MOU deal. I don't know what happens after that. Maybe you guys understood there was 60 days to sign a deal to end the war. It was a big to-do. They went to Versailles. You guys can go back 60 days ago, 2 months ago, and you can see exactly how much pomp and circumstance was set up. It was a signing, like they were ending some big deal. Yeah. The craziest thing is that the guy running the country who continues to, I don't know, just be completely out of touch. The craziest thing is that the viral clip of the weekend, and it was a 30-second clip for a much longer speech, was that he said, "I'll never apologize." I remember this guy named Dan Bongino. That was before he was known as Daniel Bongino 292. And this is prior to him getting back into government and proving that he was a phony. And he used to make the suggestion that whenever you look at politics, you get kind of two things. You get snapshots and you get sound bites. I don't know if he still says that anymore. I don't know if people are still listening to what he has to say or if it's all bots. But snapshots and sound bites actually did resonate with me. I remember hearing that and going, yeah, that's right. The thing that you give your opponent is a snapshot of you doing something you shouldn't be doing, or a soundbite of you saying something that will just resonate and rub people the wrong way. Tom Massey got a little experience of that, and it was done with AI. There were a ton of boomer voters, assuming that elections matter at all, boomer voters that were seeing this AI-generated video of him going into a hotel room with AOC and Ilhan Omar, that he was somehow having a threesome with two Democrat congressmen. Now, that was meant to be like metaphorical and not literal, but people are so dumb, and people are so dumb. It's the other reason. I think I actually texted that to Massey this weekend. It's like, the reason why I know we're not going to vote our way out of this is because the electorate is too dumb. By and large, like, you know, just think of all the dumb things you see your neighbors doing. Think about dumb things that you've done where you've been fooled and you're like, doggone it. Think about the number of people that went out and got a completely experimental shot that didn't stop a disease and turned in their neighbors over not getting the shot or not behaving as though they thought they should. Think about that. Anybody who's ever been through SEER school will have that sobering moment where they realize, not only will some of my colleagues, my friends, my coworkers sell me out for a cookie when they've been hungry for only 24 hours, some of them will sell me out for no reason at all. I've actually got a SEER school story that I want to share with you guys that I was reminded of. I told my wife it this morning, and it reminded me of the caliber of people. Just because you think somebody is something doesn't mean they're not going to behave in a way that's completely illogical to anything that you're set up to, and it makes perfect sense to them. And we should actually expect that. I stopped having a lot of faith in the general population when I saw what they did for COVID. Like a lot of us, I saw what happened. The problem is that if you saw the COVID insanity and thought it was insane, you were in the minority. That's how I know we're not voting our way out of it. So we'll get into that. But yeah, never apologize. Get tone deaf as possible. Don't be surprised when the people who are the quote unquote leaders are out there talking about their vacuum cleaners from 1966 instead of solving problems or just leaving. And by the way, we just got a story today that's going to be really fun about Mitch McConnell, which is to say, I'm pretty sure Mitch McConnell is still dead. Nobody's heard from him. His governor hasn't heard from him. All right, so we're going to do all that. Let's start off with just a reminder that you might want some peace in your life. Let's talk about my friends at Silent. slnt.com/KYLE. Link in the show description as usual. There's some video footage of me at SHOT Show looking at their bags. I still am covetous of the multicam black bag, the E3 Everyday Faraday backpack. I've got the black one, but I do want the... Yeah, I'm nerdy like that. I would actually spend another couple $100 just to get the backpack in the color I like. And then I would give my wife the one that she doesn't need. Guys, your phone is a tracking device. That's not surprising to you. There's government agencies, big tech, corporate data brokers, cyber criminals, blah, 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 blah. All the people trying to get a piece of your digital footprint. That includes things coming out of your phone like cellular, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, GPS, RFID, near field communications, whatever. All the things that can track you. But in addition to it being a tracking device, I would make the bigger argument that the cell phone is also a distracting device. And it can really take you out of the moment when you just want to be present with those that you love. I would encourage you to have a Faraday bag for the moments when you want to throw it away and not know what's going on for just a few minutes. Just a few minutes to just kind of pretend that the people in front of you are all that matters, which, by the way, is probably true. A couple of good examples. I leave my phone in the car when I go to church because I don't want my watch chirping at me telling me what Kash Patel is tweeting. I just don't want to know. I have to know for work a lot of the times, but it'd be nice to be able to just be away from that. I also put my phone in a Faraday bag when we went to the lake this weekend. We spent 4 hours kayaking around like the dad-powered boat, just pulling around, and I wanted to have my weapon with me. I wanted to have my phone with me in case we needed it. You never know what you might need, but I didn't want to be distracted by it. I wanted to just be with my family and be totally present in that moment. The Faraday device is a really good way to do that. It shuts it down, but it keeps the convenience if you need it. So look into a Silent Faraday sleeve if you have not done so already. Look into their everyday cross bodies, the concealed carry pack. When people see it, they're like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. There's a pistol in there. There's like, quick medical, your keys, your wallet, your phone, but it's off grid. It's not tracking you. It's a nice feeling to be able to do that. So if you guys want to get away from the distractions of everyday life, and you should, we can do these podcasts every day. You can listen to this a couple days a week and find out that, yep, things they're not going the way that we hoped. And the people that are in charge are kind of cocky and arrogant about it. That doesn't mean that we shouldn't just disconnect from it every once in a while and just do the things that really actually do matter. I'll talk about the F's in a little bit here. In any case, check out my friends at Silent, slnt.com/KYLE, 15% off, free shipping on qualified orders, great company, outstanding products, really well made, 100% stand behind them. I have multiple products and I use them literally every day in this house, so check them out. Let's get into today's program. Happy Monday, y'all. All right. So we're going to do it. We're going to get back into it. Every Monday, I kind of hope, I'm like, what if everything was going really well? There are some moments where you see kind of like, I don't know, poetic justice. It's not joy, but there is some of the ridiculous nonsense that I see from the other side that I go like, oh yeah, that's what we were trying to get away from. This story is something that kind of like cruised across the web. I think we touched on it the other day, just a little bit. It was about a Cambridge professor, the youngest black professor at Cambridge. And he's this weird looking dude who looks kind of effeminate, and he's got a real shiny head. He's got long hair, and he's got too much forehead. And he just kind of looks goofy. He's a man who was illiterate until he was 18. And he became Cambridge University's youngest black professor. It was a great celebration story. This story that you're seeing right here is from 2023. It started off with praising someone who had no business being praised because he didn't earn it. That's what a lot of people say DEI stands for. Did not earn it. And then we kind of covered it maybe a week and a half ago. He was exposed for being a plagiarist, so he stole other people's material. He did not get there on merit. People calling him the Milli Vanilli of academia. Of course, his academic background was in sociology. Here's the story. This is a glowing People magazine profile. Jason Arday was diagnosed with global development delay and autism spectrum disorder as a child and couldn't speak until he was 11. He achieved the seemingly impossible dream of becoming a professor at the prestigious Cambridge University in England. He was a 37-year-old sociology of education professor, or as my buddy Steve Friend likes to call them, professionally useless people. He couldn't read or write until he was 18. He was diagnosed with this whatever, blah, 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 autism spectrum disorder, couldn't speak till he was 11. Less than 8 years ago, he was told he would need to be housed in assisted living and have lifelong support as an adult. But he didn't give up. On his mother's bedroom wall, he wrote a list of goals, and one of them was, one day I will work at Oxford or Cambridge. Right. So that's how it started. And of course, you guys know that he was exposed for being a fraud because he cheated his way there. And then apparently he killed himself after he was exposed. He is kind of the victim here, but not the victim that they would have you believe. The professor's death leaves hard questions for Cambridge on race and hiring. This is one of the arguments that was made against the DEI movement. This is one of the arguments made against affirmative action, and I think it is the most compelling. And this is the argument against leftism, which starts with a place of compassion and it ends up screwing everybody involved. So it's worth remembering, as we start off the week, the people on the other side of the political aisle that have completely illogical and incoherent beliefs. They're not my friend. They're not people that I'm going to find any agreement with. We don't have common ground on stuff like this. You can't cheat your way into something, then be held accountable for cheating as you should be, which is something theoretically you would even have argued for as long as it wasn't you, and then find out that when you get exposed, it's everybody else's fault. I did say that the other day that I don't think Americans actually want freedom. I think they want freedom from responsibility. I continue to believe that's actually probably, broadly speaking, a weak Western trait. The question should be, why would you put someone who was unable, who was not up to the task, into a position of such a catastrophic failure? The best part, though, is that everybody else will get the blame for it. So it says he was the youngest black professor. They highlight the word black with a capital for no reason. I find that still stupid and offensive. He was found dead on Friday. The school ignored a series of warnings about his life story and his work. And there you have it. When Cambridge University interviewed him, this is actually a pretty interesting little piece. This is coming from the New York Times, of all places. When they interviewed him for one of the most prestigious sociology positions in the world, he was an early career scholar and underqualified by the school's own standards. This is where DEI actually screws with everybody. Cambridge requirements, as reviewed by the New York Times, called for a, quote, outstanding research record of international stature and a proven successful track record supervising PhD students. Dr. Arde had a modest publication record and had bounced from university one to the next, not staying long enough to oversee a single full 3-year or more doctorate. But they hired him anyway in 2023, and you saw the People magazine excitement. They hired him, making him the youngest black professor at the time when the school was under pressure to diversify. And in doing so, Cambridge thrust him into the international limelight, giving him a platform at one of the world's elite universities to champion academic diversity and making him a target for critics. Oh dear. Well, you'll notice that they don't put any blame on the guy who lied and cheated his way into that position, that he aspired to get into that position, that he applied for a position that he had no business getting in, and then they brought him in. This is one of those things where both sides are at odds, but only one will get blamed because he's dead. He was found dead on Friday, days after resigning from his job amid accusations that he had plagiarized chunks of his papers, embellished parts of his recently published memoir, fabricated aspects of his life story. The controversy exploded over cultural fault lines, race and neurodiversity, and academic hiring. There you go. No. And the claim is that the media killed him. In fact, the claim is being made that the media or white people killed him, to the point where race-baiting grifter Ibram X. Kendi pointed this out. The media lynched Jason Arde. Oh, what a salacious thing to say. His death, this is always, I love how these are always personal, as though it has something. Take the story and make it about yourself when you're this guy. The death on Friday of Jason Arde, a 41-year-old black, also capital B scholar who resigned from Cambridge University after waves of attack over the last few weeks, hits home. Well, the attacks were just pointing out that he was a liar, that he was a fraud, that he was a cheat, that he was a fake. You guys know what happens if you take somebody else's work? You're a thief. So apparently, he was killed by white supremacy. I've seen this noted a number of places. He was killed by racism. He was killed by people who actually believed in a standard. Isn't that crazy? And the standard is don't lie, cheat, steal. Don't be a thief. Don't be dishonest. Don't defraud people. I think a lot of us feel defrauded by a number of folks that are in our political environment that have presented themselves to be one thing and they're not. The funny thing is this guy had enough shame that he actually took his own life, which I think is tragic. I think it was a horrible thing. I don't want to celebrate his death. But what I do want to do is point out that nobody wants to put the responsibility where it belongs. It belongs firmly in two places. One, a system elevated him to a position that he had no business being in and set him up for a dramatic failure. And two, he aspired to be there and had no accurate self-reflection to look down and say, I don't belong here. I don't have this ability. Have you guys ever been offered a position that you know that you would not be able to successfully fill and you know that you would fail? It's the fault of the people that offer it to you. We think you can do it or whatever. But if you don't have the ability to actually self-assess, I have no way of being successful in this job. I'm going to make another sort of DEI didn't earn it, had no business being in there comparison in a second. And it goes back to 292, Daniel Bongino, as you guys are accurately pointing out in the chat. Imagine being asked to do something or aspiring to do something or both. Aspiring to do something and then getting an opportunity to do something that you have no business doing because you just don't have the chops to pull it off. The result is going to be failure. And then I guess it depends on what your ego looks like. Some people have the mental illness, the inability to cope with a failure, and so they turn it inward and they end up doing what we used to call in the military self-initiated elimination. That was a nice way of saying quit. And you can quit at life too, and this guy did. Or the alternative is that you just bloviate and pontificate. You never apologize, which is kind of like the Donald Trump motto. And a lot of people do that in his orbit. Ibram X. Kendi says, his death left me so devastated that I had no words when the news broke. Now he has a lot of words because he got to write an article about it. It's always my favorite. I had no words, but now I have the words. As I woke up, to be a prominent anti-racist black scholar is to know that you're a target. The fact that such a thing exists, an anti-racist black scholar is a thing, is the problem to me. He's a target. He's always surrounded. This is a man who basically gets cheered on all the time. People fawn all over him, and he cannot take any criticism at all, ever. As a prominent black scholar, you know the attacks haunt and hunt you like a lynch mob. So we've gone from people who actually literally were lynched. They were chased down, dragged to the ground, had a rope thrown around their neck, and then they were hung until dead, to the point where they do it to themselves because they lied, cheat, they were thieves, and they were caught doing something, and then they were just shamed about it. It's kind of incredible, right? Douglas Murray wrote something at the Free Press, a little taste of it. He calls it a tragedy. I think that's probably true. I think it's tragic that our institutions feel compelled to bow down to people who have no business being there, that they've ruined the standard. And they've really lowered what our expectations are for a lot of things. That happens in the military. I've seen this where women are put into jobs they don't belong. I worked in one of those jobs where women do not belong. That might be challenging for some people, but it's really non-negotiable. They've done the studies on this thing. The physical capabilities of women to get into certain jobs, they just don't exist. And even if there is a one-off female, and there are a couple of them, that can make it in that space, the question should always be is what value have they added to the team, to the job? Under what circumstances are they required to be there other than sort of serving themselves? This is always the thing that I always wondered about. Do people ever look around and go, not only is this just about what I think that I can do because I want it, am I actually adding any value to anybody else? Is there anything out of just like pure narcissism? I wonder that a lot. And I wonder that when it comes to politics. Just because you can do something doesn't mean you should do something. Maybe it was very formative for me watching the original Jurassic Park. Which, by the way, there's a very, very small number of books and movies that are very dramatically different, and yet both of them are excellent in their own right as standalone works. And Michael Crichton's book, and then the movie that was made afterwards, Jurassic Park, and even Lost World. Lost World was a terrible movie and an incredible book, the sequel to Jurassic Park. There's some lessons to be learned in that. One of the ones that comes out of the movie version was this fantastic quote. Character of Ian Malcolm, who's this scientist, he's a mathematician, and he says, your scientists were so interested in wondering whether they could, they forgot to ask whether they should. Do we do that in our own lives, I wonder? Because this should be that moment. Just because somebody can, just because you aspire to be a professor at a prestigious school, is it just hubris that puts you there? Because hubris is a killer. And I suspect the story of this guy, Jason Arde, the tragedy is that his flaw is hubris, which is a tragedy. You know, it's a flaw that took place in many Greek tragedies. It's the hero aspiring to more than they actually had the ability to keep up with. Oh, well. It's an interesting enough story. I think it has some parallels into what's going on since we brought up the name. I want to play this. I found this over the weekend. I found this to be fascinating. One of the things that I continue to hammer about this particular administration, and I think this actually goes to the broader point of why people are so frustrated in the United States right now, why you have to put the phone away, why you got to get a sleeve like this so you can just get off the grid and get away from the disappointment of it, is because I think people in America had a really good energy in 2024. It was a violent energy. It was an aggressive energy. It was a reformative, revolutionary type energy. I know that when I talk to people, it felt dangerous, maybe in a good way, but it did feel like that in the circles that I ran in, to the point where it was like, were we going to even have an election? Were we going to even pretend? Are we just going to have violence? How many of you were stocking up on gasoline and on food and on water? I remember the advertisers that we had at the moment then. Were you getting solar power, battery backups, knowing that whatever went down in November of 24, especially if they put in some babbling word salad sandwich lady who appeared to be wandering around drunk, that wasn't even picked in a primary, who didn't seem to have American values? Like, how many of us were remembering that moment, going like, oh, wow, we're right on the edge of something pretty wild. We're on the precipice of something dangerous here. And it could get real dark real quick. I think people felt like that. And then they felt like they got a major reprieve, like you'd gotten a temporary stay of execution from the governor. And phone call comes in at the last second. And they take you out of the chair or something. Because it looked like it was going that way. And the only way that we were going to get out of that moment, the threatening, sort of danger, was we were going to have radical revolutionary change institutionally in our systems of government. We had a president coming in saying that he wanted to abolish the IRS, that he was going to fund the government through tariffs, which, call me crazy, but that meant that he was going to eliminate a huge chunk of government. He was going to just write it out of existence. They were going to just fire people and not hire them for that job, which is kind of dictatorial. And that may be the only way that the United States actually pulls back from that brink that we saw. And instead, what we've done is we've just flirted with it. We've just kind of edged it. The only way that would have worked is if the people who had been talking so much shit for years about the bad problem, that if they had actually understood that the problem was the way that they understood it. And one of the guys who was the deepest of the DEI hires there didn't earn it, had no business getting involved in actually carrying it out, and had no ability to do self-reflection and say, I have a lot of bluster. I'm really good at talking, but I'm not really good at actually doing this thing. I don't have the background, the experience required to come and fix an agency like the FBI. Was this guy, Daniel Bongino, 292 days in, and he quit. He's crying now on his podcast about the threats that are coming from the left. This is the, if you don't vote for us, you get communism. And the crazy thing is, he's saying that they understand the same problem that he claimed that he understood, because did we not hear him say things like personnel is policy? That it's the people in the unknown jobs that are the danger. Incredibly, it's people in academia who are educating children that are bringing along the next generation. That's like, well, why would I try to change the mind of grownups who are already set in their ways? Why don't I just go find some fertile ground and plant my seeds in some other places? Did you see the conservative side take back education? Where's the fight for the school boards, which was such a big deal in 2020 and 2021 when they were masking and testing and trying to jab your kids with some poison? Because people got pretty rowdy about that. Some people have jumped on board. They've done what I've done. They've said, well, you can't fix a system that big, nor will we try. So we're just going to pull our kids away from school. So we're not going to give the government our children. I think that's a great answer. But a lot of you don't do that. A lot of you don't have either the means, you don't have the time, you don't have the background. I understand it. So what are you doing to try to fix that system? Because personnel is policy, to include low-level personnel. What's crazy is hearing Daniel Bongino say that thing now, having been the guy in that job and failed at it, dramatically failed at it, objectively failed at it. I'm going to play you this. He's crying about Hillary Clinton, who hasn't really been particularly relevant since she lost to Donald Trump in 2016. She's just been a yapping voice in the back that's waiting to die. She has no more opportunity to have any institutional power. He got a position of institutional power. And now he's crying about how Hillary Clinton is calling out what they're going to do. Listen to this for a little bit.
They are going to try to put every single Trump administration official they can in prison. Here's Hillary Clinton sending a message with that hapless, worthless host, Kara Swisher, another idiot. Here she is on the show talking about how, hey, man, we're just going to hunt everyone down. I knew that. I went in and did my thing. You do it anyway. It's worth it for me. But we will all be hunted down.
It's worth it. I went in and did my thing. I knew that going in. Then why are you crying about it? Another thing I want you guys to listen to. I've listened to Daniel off and on for years, not as long as many of you, but I've heard plenty of what he has to say. When he starts getting out over his skis and he lets this kind of like, he lets this persona take over, he has the thing that I pointed out to you last week. The adenoidal delivery. It's the thing where the soft palate changes and you can hear him, it gets nasalier. It sounds dumber. It sounds like when my 9-year-old is trying to tell me something that she doesn't actually know is true, but she's trying to be funny. She's trying too hard. We all do it. Every human being that I'm aware of does it if you speak, especially if you're like a talker, and Daniel's a talker. He knew what they were going to do and he went in and did his thing anyway. He kind of just massages around this. Anyway, listen for the adenoidal delivery as we continue on about how they're going to go after, the left is going to go after the small positions. Kind of like what he said he was going to go in and root out.
I promise you, every single one of us, because that's what they believe in and they're not hiding it. Check this out.
There's going to be so much to fix. I mean, first, get rid of all of the holdovers. Do not let anybody hang around in some small office somewhere who can literally subvert your program and you don't even know that person's there. And I will predict that, Trump and his minions are going to try to,
put people.
They're going to try to move people from political appointments to so-called civil service appointments, although they're trying to destroy the civil service. So people are going to have to be really searching to make sure that they are not going to be literally subverted from within the government.
That is a brilliant plan, by the way. Wherever would you have heard that from? Well, you could be a reader and know something about the way government works. And so this is a 16th or 17th century phenomenon that's been well documented in Western civilization. Machiavelli talked about it. You got two choices when you take over a foreign government. When you take over a hostile or adversarial government, you can exile or you can execute. Those are basically the two options. Hillary Clinton is talking about exile. Find the people that are not on your team and get rid of them. It's almost like the people who are on the screen with me right now, this smiling bald face, actually used to know that thing. Personnel is policy. The people that are working in your government are the ones that are going to carry out what you do. And now they're crying about it and saying, give us more time. You've had 18 months. That should have been the only thing you were doing. And he left under a year. It couldn't have been that important. You didn't even make it for more than 10 months. The deputy director of the FBI job is the person who knows all of the things inside the FBI. There should be somebody that knows all the things that's friendly to your policies, that's friendly to what you want to accomplish in every government agency. That should have been the single biggest spot. That should have been the single biggest goal of this Trump administration. That's what de-weaponized government looks like, by the way. It's go find the people that were doing the weaponization and taking them down. So this is actually kind of incredible. But what's amazing is that Hillary Clinton is saying that Democrats know what the answer is now too. The question is will they carry it out or will they do what this administration has done, which is fail? Since they're the party of DEI, generally speaking, I guess nobody has a monopoly on it. Since they're the party of putting people that don't belong in place, maybe they'll be unsuccessful at it. Maybe we'll get to continue to limp along. But the crazy bit is all the people that cried about DEI and merit-based and meritocracy and putting the right people in place that have earned it, they put a bunch of people that have no business being in these jobs. And Daniel's a great example of it. Talked a big game, had no follow-through, got out in under a year, which is an incredibly short amount of time to serve in a position like that, and then cries about it? Professionally? That's fairly amazing. There was a time early on in this administration where if they had asked me, I would have showed up. My wife and I were making plans. What would it if the right person came in and asked and said, we need you and whatever your expertise is, and I'd be like, well, there are obviously better people than me to do this. But if they've all said no and you've gotten down the line to where I'm at, fine. We would move back to Northern Virginia, even though I despise it. And I have no interest in ever going there again. That time has passed, by the way. I won't help. I'd like let it crumble. I don't care. But there was a time, and for all of the defenders of this guy on the screen, when he left, I had 8 or 9x more experience inside the FBI. 8 or 9x more than the time that he spent there. So I don't want to play that game anymore. You guys had a shot. You had a generational opportunity and you failed. And what's incredible is this stuff continues to go on. And then this lack of humility, this hubris, this pride, it permeates everything. There's no apology ever. If you're the boss and you can't admit when you're wrong, you are just absolutely doomed to failure. We'll play a little bit longer at this because this is his reaction to Hillary Clinton.
I can't with these people. They love to tell you like government's this force for good in your life. It's so benevolent. It's like a bunch of like, you ever see the play Annie growing up? It's like Daddy Warbucks. Oh, look, in the end, he's just trying to take care of Annie or whatever, despite being a little bit of a hard ass. Like that's their thing. They're not just talking about principals, deputies, assistant directors in the Trump administration. Notice what she says. We need to look in those small offices there. Just to be clear, you're going to have some guy in like the Bureau of Indian Affairs who is a Trump appointee for, I don't know, like the administrative assistant in charge of like window washing.
He knows so little about what the Bureau of Indian Affairs does that he doesn't have an idea of what that office might look like off the top of his head. Here's how you know. He just had to make up a position. What they should have been doing is getting rid of these positions in every single governmental agency. And he should have been able to talk about, they're not going to have to worry about that. Didn't he just say they act like big government is your friend? I thought, and this is amusing to me because I think this guy used to do a podcast called The Renegade Republican. In theory, the Republican Party used to be the party of small government, and they've stopped. They aren't that anymore. So we all got hoodwinked on this. And the fact that today is the 60-day anniversary, it's the ending of an MOU talking about the end of the Iran conflict. And what have we done? We've actually moved into it even harder. Every one of these promises that you don't fulfill is an opportunity for people to look at you and go, you're just as bad as the other side. You just sound like you'd be on my team, but you don't actually do it. Whether you call it a rug pull, whether you call it bamboozled, whether you call it a scam or fraud, I think all those things are the right words. That's what people feel like. So you're not going to get people who want to see you succeed anymore. He's wearing a shirt that says 250 years of kicking ass. What a joke.
And that dude's going to find himself out of a job. Has nothing to do with anything other than the fact that they were appointed by Trump. These are the people who want you to believe that government is this force of, it's this positive, benevolent force. It's your big dad.
I don't know how people listen to this stuff. I really don't. I'm going to give you another great example of it. There's a guy named Glenn Beck. He's got an enormous audience. We're going to go to that in a second here. Glenn Beck is another one of these people that you listen to it and you just go, at what point in time are we going to have like a national level Jonestown experience here? If people have been telling you something for years, people that you believe, and then they finally tell you like, well, we've lost it. It's all over. Or you just have to drink this thing and we're all going to be together again. How many people are going to have the Kool-Aid drinking Jonestown moment? It does start feeling cult-like. I saw a lot of interactions online of people just talking about that's how you know you're in a cult. You never know you're in a cult when you're in the cult. And I'll tell you who can't handle criticisms. People who are in a cult that require uniformity of thought. And we are in that moment right now. It's very, very obvious to me. Because the number one story for Republicans right now should be, we blew it. We had a 60-day ceasefire that we turned into a kinetic ceasefire. And all we campaigned on was a domestic agenda, dropping prices. And now you actually have the president over Friday and coming into the weekend with the number one soundbite and the snapshot from that being, too bad, I'll never apologize just because you have to pay a little bit more for gasoline. Number one, nobody calls it gasoline like that, unless they're Chinese. He's making fun of you for seeing that your fuel prices have doubled. The one thing that you have to do regularly just so your life exists in America, in a first world country. And by the way, he's the same guy that was on the campaign trail saying we're going to get it down to $2 a gallon. And now he's like, stop crying about it being twice as much as what I claimed. And if you notice it, it's your fault. At some point, we have to recognize that, like, you don't have the chops to be there. You've lost it. It's hard to watch that, by the way. It's difficult for most of us to see that. I think. I have a hard time with it because I really, really needed to not be in a position where we are going to be fighting on our home front, where we weren't going to be fighting some sort of conflict. It would have been really nice if we could vote our way out of it. All Donald Trump managed to do was point out that we cannot. Full stop. Okay. I'm going to bring up my friends over at Cove Pure real quickly. Folks, we don't take tons of stuff at face value anymore. Maybe because our politicians have been lying to us enough to make sure that we can't. One of the things that I obviously didn't care about previously because I'm just a regular dude and I drank ice out of the tap and water out of the tap, and I've had water out of huge trailers when I was in the military. If it was wet, it was good enough. I didn't really keep track of what was going on inside the water. That's kind of my wife's department. There's 176 million Americans that are drinking tap waters with PFAs in it right now. Those are man-made chemicals. They've got food packaging, non-stick cookware. It's firefighting foam. It's stuff that goes in. It is a forever chemical that lives in your body. It gets broken down. Never. They just hang out there, and they're linked to all kinds of nasty stuff like hormone disruption, immune damage, increased cancer. Even the water can poison us. Here's the thing that people have to realize. Just because our government has set limits on it doesn't mean they're doing anything about it. They actually set limits back in 2024 on what to do about PFAs, but they don't require anybody to be squared away on the limits until 2031. Classic government. So there's at least another 5 years until that deadline arrives. And you guys, your utility could be operating well above the legal limits, giving you all kinds of nasty stuff in there. If you want that stuff filtered out, this is why we have something like Cove Pure at our house. We've got a drip filter, which actually costs more money. Then we've got this machine upstairs, which is what the kids drink out of every night. Cove Pure was engineered for this. Unlike a normal pitcher, it pulls out everything, 99.9% of contaminants. You can see it's PFAs and heavy metals and fluoride and pharmaceuticals. It makes water tastes like water, which is really nice. So you don't have to think about any stuff on there. You can also get it in hot, cold, or luke. It'll heat it and cool it for you. Very nice. You can pour it out of the pitcher. You can push it out of the button to distribute it. Check out Cove Pure. It's COVEPURE.com/KYLE. CovePure.com/Kyle. Let me see here. I think I've actually got the webpage up here. There's the deal. Right now, it's $3.99. It's marked down from the normal pricing. It's $250 off. I guess it's for the 250th anniversary of America. No plumbing required. Very easy to do. Check out the Cove Pure unit. If you go to the link and hit buy, you'll get the deal. That's it right there. It's the one we use. It's really a really good machine. I'm thinking about having a second one, actually, because I have to wait for my drip filter, and it takes too long oftentimes. This thing is very, very quick. It'll fill up the entire pitcher there in a couple of minutes. All right, look into Cove Pure. We'll get back into it. Going right now. Let's see what else we've got here on the docket. You know what one of the more like insane things is? One of our listeners pointed this out to me. I didn't know this, by the way. So much appreciated for those of you who listen and send me emails. Some of you send me wild emails that make no sense to me at all. And some of you sent me this. Maybe this is why Glenn Beck is the way that Glenn Beck is. I will play you a Glenn Beck clip in a second. This is from July of 2025. This is over a year old. President Trump has kept his promises and then some. I didn't know they did this. So kudos to our listener that sent it in. You know who you are. I won't out anybody. President Donald Trump campaigned on the list of 20 core promises to make America great again. Well, there it is. I show you this. In fact, I was going to not show it to you today. That was my mindset. I was like, you know what? We've been harping on these 20 promises too much. Nope, we can't harp on them enough. I don't know what's worse, ignoring that you made promises or gaslighting people and saying that you've actually delivered on all of them, which is what they did. It says in just 6 months, he has unquestionably delivered. This is a White House, press release. From lowering costs to securing the border to enhancing public safety, Donald Trump has done more to make good on his promises than any president in American history, and he's just getting started. Okay, so let's see. Promises made, promises kept. From the White House, official comms. Seal the border and stop the migrant invasion. There's that. That's number one. Promise kept. Green check mark, guys. Under President Trump, the number of illegal immigrant crossings are at historic lows. The border wall construction has resumed. Last month, illegal border crossings were at the lowest ever recorded. Okay, we'll give you that. For 2 straight months, 0 illegals were released into the nation's interior. Fine, I'll take it. Carry out the largest deportation operation in American history. We know that this didn't get done. Oh, wait. Green checkmark. Promise kept. Every single day, the Trump administration is removing illegal aliens, illegal immigrants, killers, rapists, gangbangers, drug traffickers, other violent criminals off the street and sending them back. Seriously? That's the claim? That is a bold claim. It's also not the same thing as saying the largest deportation operation, just saying that you're removing some people. Everybody removes some people every day. That's always happened under everybody. So there's line number 1. End inflation and make America affordable. Starting the day I take the oath of office, I will rapidly drive down prices and will make America affordable again. That's what he said in August. Actually, he said that 2 years ago today. Okay. Promise kept. Apparently America is affordable again. Core inflation at its lowest level in 4 years. I guess they forgot that they were going to go to war for no reason. Prices on everyday goods continue to fall. Americans are growing increasingly confident. That's actually not true anymore. That may have been true for a few minutes. After 6 months, this is exactly when that change took place, by the way. July of 2025 was when the changeover happened. Maybe they just said, mission accomplished. Now we're going to go start effing stuff up again. Is that what went on? Make America the dominant energy producer. Well, I showed you guys the other day. But they've actually dropped the strategic oil reserves in the last 6 months to the lowest levels they've been since 1982. So we have now reached the ultimate gaslight, which is that we did mission accomplished in the first few months, so now we're just going to turn around and break all the things that we fixed or that we were on the road to. Let's just give them the benefit of the doubt and say at that time they were on the right track. What's amazing is that was the end of the track. And so this has always been the question I've had about the Trump administration. Do they legitimately believe that announcing something is the thing? And it turns out that very well may be the case. We're going to stop outsourcing American jobs? Are we really? President Trump pursues a bold commitment to the America First trade agenda. Oh, got it. Well, it's a bold commitment, so that means it's done. Tax cuts on workers. This is the big, beautiful bill, one of the largest spending bills in the history of the country, adding trillions of dollars to our national debt. Thanks so much. We really appreciate it. See, the whole funny thing about tax cuts are when you cut the taxes, you're also supposed to cut the size of government. Brilliant. Defend the Constitution. Promise kept. There it is. Defend the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, fundamental freedoms. What do they say? Free speech, free religion, keep and bear arms. Really? We had to have a victory that took place over this weekend. There was an opening at Silencer Shop. Their store's been open for almost a year. I think they opened in October of last year. It's right down the street from me. It's walking distance. And so they did a grand opening celebrating the opening of the store. They soft opened it for almost a year. But this was a great, great thing to see. For me, it was very uplifting. Had nothing to do with the Trump administration, even though they will give credit there. The only thing the Trump administration did was not continue to pursue a decidedly disgusting policy of fighting against the Second Amendment. So if you guys weren't paying attention, there was a case that was decided in North Texas. A federal judge declared that the National Firearms Act of 1934 was unconstitutional in the current way that it was set up. Republicans could have repealed the NAFA if they wanted to. Nobody likes to call it the NFA. They could have repealed it. They could have tried to repeal it. They could have given us the things that they actually wanted to do. But instead what they said is, well, we don't have the strength we don't have the ability to actually push it through. So what we're going to do instead is we're going to reduce the tax from $200, which is what it's been since 1934, to $0. So now you get a $0 tax stamp, which is a fake version of, it's the only reason that you can do a registration of short-barreled rifles, short-barreled shotguns, suppressors, AOWs, any other weapons. There's this registry of guns. And ostensibly, the registry only exists because there's a tax on it and they got to see who paid the tax. Well, now the tax is $0. And a North Texas judge said you can't have a $0 tax because there's no money involved. So you cannot justify having the registration. So that's now unconstitutional. And it's the case for people who are GOA members. By the way, a Gun Owners of America membership costs you $25 a year if you guys want to sign up. I have no connection to them other than I know the attorney that made this argument. I'm incredibly proud of what he did. I'm super, super proud of the people at Silencer Shop, which is where I shop. And they went and they fought something on their own dime and they beat essentially the Trump administration. And the Trump administration just said they weren't going to fight it any further. But it's not like they rolled over and died on this thing. So the $0 taxing game, that goes in. You're telling me that you're defending our fundamental freedoms and it has to be fought through the courts. And it has not been nationally applied yet. But if you're a Silencer Shop customer in 27 states right now, you can order something from their website. Again, I have no financial deal with them other than I like them as a company. So I'll tell you what they did. You can order from their website. It can go to your dealership and you can do a regular federal background check, a 4473 form, and you can walk home with it. So there you go. That was done because these people fought it. This was because a company decided it was in the best interests of the American people to try to free up the thing that they sell. And you know what? It turns out that private version of fighting this fight, which was not done by the Trump administration, it was actually very, very well received. Very well received, as far as I could tell. At 8:30 in the morning on Saturday morning, there was a line around the building. The building is probably 60 or 70 yards long. It's another 30 yards deep, and then it's another 60 or 70 yards long on the back. There were hundreds of cars out there. And they kept a line of probably 200 or 300 people at any given time for 8+ hours to get into the store. I was one of the last people in. I went down there, said hi to their social media folks, gave a high five to the people that worked. They didn't take a lunch break. They just worked through. They told me they did over 1,000 transactions, which means they sold thousands of suppressors. A lot of people came out there with 2 and 3 cans at a time. They probably did north of $1 million worth of business in one retail store in one day on suppressors. That's how much there's an attitude and a hunger for the Trump administration to actually do the things they said they were going to do. And this number 7 is a big deal, especially the keep and bear arms bit. And instead it had to be fought in the courts. And it's still narrowly applied. There are a couple of attorney generals that are at the state level that are going to start making some statements. Sounds like Montana's going to get it done. Texas is okay on it. If you guys want to find out who puts their money where their mouth is, see who steps up on this one. because it is deeply unpopular with the political left, and there's no upside to like crossing over. But this is a freedom that's pretty important. And then you get to this stuff like restore peace in Europe and Middle East. They said they did it. Donald Trump restored peace, even though they didn't solve the problem in Ukraine and Russia. He achieved remarkable success by employing his peace through strength doctrine, preventing a world war between Pakistan and India, ending the 12-day war. You just started the 6-month war, brokering a peace agreement between the Congo and Rwanda, as if anybody gave a shit about any of those things. That's not the stuff he said he was going to solve. But here's the green check mark. Promise kept. Meanwhile, the big beautiful bill delivers funding for the Golden Dome missile system. Terrific. So we're going to just spend more money. And yeah, he said it was going to be built. I didn't think it was going to be built while we were also doing this. How about this one? End weaponization against the American people by their federal government. Biden worked to persecute dissidents, conservatives, Catholics, other Christians. Have they fixed any of those problems? The answer is no. Trump has purged corrupt elements from DOJ and FBI, pardoned pro-life Americans wrongly targeted by the Biden administration, and launched a full-scale investigation into deep state abuses. I thought that's what Daniel Bongino, 292, was supposed to be doing. And he left in 292 days. And now he's crying that there are people that are going to get rooted out. Those positions shouldn't even exist. That was the whole point. De-weaponizing government means you make it so small that it can't fight you. Whatever. Promise kept. By July, they claim that they already got it. This is such a disingenuous lie. They've stopped the migrant crime epidemic. I guess so. Yeah. How do they do that? They deported all the bad guys. There's no more illegal gangs of people from El Salvador. There's no more MS-13. There's no TDA. None of these people are here in the country anymore. And they've rebuilt the cities. Look at this. Rebuild our cities, including Washington, D.C. Promise kept. Donald Trump is currently cracking down on crime with federal support. We just read you an article last week about how there is no exit strategy for the National Guard to be able to get out of there. Because theoretically, when you rebuild a city, it means you also are rebuilding the institutions that keep it safe. One would think that part of the answer would be fixing what was happening in D.C. that allowed it to get so corrupt and gross. Did they fix D.C. Metro PD? No. Will they do the next January 6th again and arrest everybody? 100%. For sure. This is disgusting, guys. And so it just goes on and on and on. So you're just being gaslit. And you wonder, how do you end up in that position where that's what you think? And then I think, well, maybe you just listen to Glenn Beck. Here's Glenn Beck on the Iran war, which Donald Trump has brilliantly executed. And I have some great clips of that, about incredible work that our president has done to end the war that is continuing on as we blow past the 60-day deadline. This is a little retrospective on how amazing the man is. I guess if people are constantly slobbing your knob and you never once get anybody to tell you something true or honest, like, sir, people hate you. Every day I see posts of people that say, I regret my vote for Donald Trump. I'm not one of those people, by the way. I would still do, of the binary choice of Kamala word salad Harris and Donald Boomer full of shit Trump, I still vote Donald Boomer full of shit Trump. Non-negotiable. If I get a choice. I'm not sure that we actually had a choice, to be fair. I think we may have been hoodwinked on that one. But if I have those two in front of you, it's like, Seraphin, which one do you want to go with? And I'm like, the one that doesn't suck as much, for sure. The one that's promising to pardon my friend. The one that's going to take away the felony conviction from guys like Owen Schroyer. Yeah, I'll go with that. That's fair. Is he going to do everything he says? No, I don't think so. Is he going to half-wit it and then take credit for stuff? Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Has he settled with any of the people inside my agency that have an active lawsuit against the DOJ? The answer is no. For whatever it's worth, folks. I've been suing DOJ since 2022. So I'm 4 years deep into a lawsuit because they looked at what we were doing, said, we are going to fire the guy that did the thing to you that you allege he did. And we're going to fire him for the reasons that you alleged he was wrong. We're going to prove that your lawsuit is justifiable by doing employment actions against the guy who did what he did, what you said he did. And we're going to fire him for those same reasons. But we're not going to fix the lawsuit with you. We're still carrying it on. And every 6 weeks or less, I have to write a check to my attorney for $1,500. How many of you guys are sending out checks for $1,500, $2,000 at a time? That's on top of the lawsuit that the FBI director's girlfriend has filed against me, which cost me 5 figures already. Right? Oh man, that is a great line. Susan in our chat just said your choice is between having shit or diarrhea. Do you want shit or catastrophic shit? Yeah, that's exactly correct. That's how it feels. Okay, let's do Glenn Beck. Maybe this is why people are like this.
He outmaneuvered our best thinkers at the Pentagon. Our best thinkers at the Pentagon said, this is the way we fight this. And when we do fight this, God forbid we ever have to fight it, oil will go to $150 to $350 a barrel. That collapses the economy. That's why all of these guys kick the can down the road. Because there's no way out. And the Pentagon knew it. It's going to. So all the advisors said, can't do it because it'll do this. Donald Trump says, well, that's not how I'm going to fight the war. I'm going to fight the war differently, and I'm going to keep the strait open. And they're like, Mr. President, you're not going to be able to. Well, really? Watch me.
Yeah, watch me. Is the strait open right now? Fact check it.
Here's how we're going to do it. So they all get on board, and they're all like, okay. And he has kept the price between $110 and $70 a barrel. Today, I think it's an $83 or $88 a barrel, something like that, which is totally doable. We've had that kind of price before. At 120, it starts to get really dicey. I mean, it's expensive, but it's economy collapsing at 120 to 150 sustained. The economy collapses. So his advice, or his advisor said, don't go in because the economy collapsed because of the price of oil. He said, no, that's not a problem. Now, I believe that he thought this would end quicker. I think he really thought that there would be somebody that he could kill the top people at the very beginning, and the others would go like, I don't want to die, so I'm with them. But
this is the classic, it's not his fault because he was given bad advice. This is the MAGA cope. And there's a market for this, by the way, because Glenn Beck has a massively bigger audience. And people definitely want to hear the cope version and not the realistic version, which is that your guy has been emptying the strategic oil reserves. He's been artificially keeping that price the way it is, and he's putting America in a generational crisis. But yeah, we could act like it wasn't his fault because he got bad advice. Sure, let's keep it on that.
He didn't take into account, I think, how diehard these 12ers actually are.
Oh,
they are in it
it's not his fault
for the long run. And so this has lasted longer than he thought it would. And because of that, we have had to open up our strategic oil reserves. China opened up their strategic oil reserves.
Oh, my goodness.
Europe opened up their strategic oil reserves. Everybody now is out of oil in our strategic oil reserves. Out. That's meant for wartime. If we're at the beginning of the war, we're in deep, deep trouble.
Yeah, but Donald Trump did the most amazing thing. He fought the war differently than anybody else wanted to fight the war. But you guys, we're screwed. But also, Donald Trump is a genius. Simultaneously, in less than 3 minutes.
Because there's no cushion now to bring the price from $150 down to $100 a barrel. There's no price. If somehow or another oil cannot come through that choke point to us, we can't run our ships and our airplanes. This is extraordinarily dangerous. And the president has told me he was given information. He didn't tell me what it was, but he was given information that said, if I continue and I don't put a pause on this right now, we could have a global economic collapse. And his quote to me was, and I am not going to be Herbert Hoover. I am not going to put the world into an economic depression. This is probably the most severe energy supply disruption in history. More than 1 billion barrels have been lost, roughly 100 million more every single week that it stays shut. But it's not shut, because if it was shut, we wouldn't have $88 a barrel of oil today. So, what did Trump?
So he's a genius. He's a genius. We showed you this the other day. Here's the crude oil stocks. This is the strategic petroleum reserves. This is the lowest point. This is 270.455 million barrels in August of 1982. And we are rapidly approaching that. We got down as low as 351 million in 2023, and then they actually started going back up again. And look at this. They were going up under the Biden administration after their disastrous tank. Yes, they took us they reduced it by about 50%. This is 21. So there you have a drop off, but it was actually dropping off at the end of Trump's term. Look at this. This is Trump's first term. 2017, he went from about 700 million barrels, and they bled it down And by the time we get to the end of 2020, we're down 75 million barrels. Then they make a little blip up. And there you go. This is where he ended up, 638. So down about 62 million barrels. So he bled off a little bit in his first term. Biden took a tank on there, went from the 640 million down to about 340 million, 300 million barrels of oil that were kicked out. But then this recovery, which I actually was crediting to Trump the last time we talked about it, it actually was happening under Biden. So there you go. There's the bottom. There's the bottom of the first curve, 346.7 million. And it goes up, and it goes up, and it goes up. And let's see where we get to Donald Trump's term. Right about there. They're at about 390. And so from 390 until the peak here at about 415, that's February 2026, just before we started the bombing in Iran. And he went from 415, and then they blew through about 117 million barrels. This is August 7th at 298.7 million. So the recovery was happening under the Biden administration. It was happening and continued for the first year of Donald Trump. And then they lost it again when they started pushing this back out again. And there you have Glenn Beck saying Donald Trump is a genius, but also like America and the rest of the world is absolutely screwed. Let's put it a different way. Maybe you didn't understand how the winning and the losing works.
Yeah, just what the hell? This war with Iran is confusing me. Bro, the war is over. It's done. Nope. Israel just pulled us back into it. Never mind. Yeah, what's going on? We're getting all these conflicting messages. I can't even track what's happening. Dude, I've listened to everything. It's pretty straightforward. Explain it to me. And start with, why'd we get into this war in the first place? So, in late March, us and Israel, so mostly us, started attacking Iran to eliminate their nuclear capabilities. Wait, what was that Operation Midnight Hammer thing about last June? That was strikes to eliminate Iran's nuclear capabilities, and that was a great success. After it, Trump declared Iran's nuclear capabilities are 100% gone. Okay, and then we started an all-out war in March to do the same thing we already did? Like, that already doesn't make any sense. Well, not so fast. Well, yes, but the strikes in March killed Iran's supreme leader. We knew that if you kill their leader, then you win the war. So total victory, case closed. All right, then what happened? Well, Iran started retaliating for some reason. Maybe because their leader was killed? Maybe. So the war didn't end again like we thought it would. Like, of course they would retaliate. Yeah, nobody saw it coming. But then, and get this, Iran escalated things by closing the Strait of Hormuz. That was a big deal. And then everybody around the world started freaking out about oil prices. Yeah, so at this point, we're just really in the war. Can't stop even if we wanted to. It's awful. But here's the good news. On March 15th, Trump announced, we have won. It's a total victory. Well, that's good. And then what happened? The war continued. Oh. But he said total victory. It's more about the journey than the destination. It sounds misleading. But don't worry, because at that time, Iran was negotiating with us on a ceasefire. What came of that? Israel killed Iran's negotiators. So negotiations failed somehow, and fighting continued. Why would Israel do that? But as the war went on, by late March, Iran's military was so weakened that Trump said, and I quote, "They have nothing left. We've knocked out their missiles." At this point, they're basically shooting at our great pilots with BB guns. No match for our beautiful brand new F-35s and F-15s. Well, that's good news. Then what? Iran shot down 2 of our aircrafts. Ironically, an F-35 and an F-15. Did they use BB guns? No, shoulder fire missiles. But Trump said they... Luckily, we rescued all the pilots, though. But if it...
Remember that? So yeah, so JP Sears crushing it. I had to go back into my archives of stuff that was out there. I was like, let's just go back 60 days. Let's just see what it looked like. And so I have all the clips that I played 60 days ago when they did the discussion about this memorandum of understanding that was going to lead to lasting peace. And it's worth revisiting. What did these people say? Because I just want to hold people accountable to their own words. Do you remember that he said that they should be allowed to have some ballistic missile capabilities because that's only fair because other people also have ballistic missiles? That's our president. The one who is the genius doing the special war that nobody's ever thought they could do. Or maybe he's absolutely doing the dumbest thing possible and he's getting dog walked around. And that sounds far more plausible to me because the results don't lie. You just blew through a 60-day limit where we were supposed to be able to come out with something called lasting peace, allegedly. I don't know. Guys, if you're watching on Rumble, give us a like. Give us a like over on YouTube. You may hear an ad on the audio platforms now. I'll insert it, so adjust your volumes. I don't even know if you have to adjust your volumes. Apparently, there's a setting on Spotify where you can adjust your volumes, where it'll normalize the audio. If you haven't done that, go look in your settings, see if you guys want to do that, and that way you don't get blasted out by some sort of random ad that comes in. I appreciate you guys tolerating those, and you can skip them for whatever it's worth. Spotify, you can find us at KyleSeraphinShow.com. It's the easiest way to listen to the show. You get audio, you get video. You can see the graph that I was running through if you guys are so inclined. Should we do more historical fun stuff? I think we should. Let's do this one. What does a peace deal even look like?
With Iran. So what does a good deal look like for you?
Well, first of all, there's no deal that's good enough because the media will cover it. We're making a great deal. We're going to make a great deal. Or we'll just go back and finish it off militarily. But this would go faster. It's probably better on a humane standpoint. There's something nice about it also. You know, save a lot of lives. Whether it's the other side or not, you save a lot of lives. But we're close to a very good deal, and if we can make it good, otherwise we just start up with the Department of War, as we call it. And it's been very successful. You saw Venezuela. It was a one-day win, and this is really a win already. We've defeated their military, essentially defeated their military. I would rather get a deal because we can open the strait immediately upon signing. The one guarantee that I have to have is that there will be no nuclear weapons. They've agreed to that. So we'll be working on a parallel effort with the Gulf nations to address non-nuclear issues such as the conventional ballistic missiles, which we'll be talking about, and support. I mean, they have to have some because other people have some. You got to have some. Somebody said you shouldn't give them one. I mean, I have guys. I like some of these guys, but I don't think they're smart.
Yeah.
Sir, you shouldn't let them have any missile. I said, well, what am I going to do? Am I going to let Saudi Arabia have missiles, but they can't have them? Yes, sir. Doesn't work that way, you know? Yeah. It doesn't work that way. And missiles aren't the problem. Missiles they hurt a little location, but they don't blow up the planet.
Yeah, I think we got the less dumb of the two options, but is that not a really dumb thing to say? Here is the lead story from NBC News this morning. Revenge is inevitable. Iran ramps up its propaganda with violent billboards. That also is really dumb. For whatever, like if we're going to talk about dumb headlines, how many violent billboards have you ever seen in your whole life? Is there such a thing? Like, are the billboards doing violence? Isn't that what that word means? This is the same leftist that promoted the big forehead Milli Vanilli guy, right? This is how that works. So our news media has really let us down on this thing. But revenge is inevitable. Propaganda. This is stuff from Iran. Look at this. This is the country that is completely destroyed. It's not even standing. Meanwhile, it does appear to be standing. There are people riding around on motorbikes. There's roadways that work. They keep showing these photos. There are people that are alive. Anti-U.S. messaging has intensified since Israel killed the supreme leader. And there's artificial intelligence now playing a major role. Obviously, there's some funny videos that the Iranians have put out in the Lego series. Billboards are state-sponsored. They're plastered across Iran's capital. They're far from subtle. One features an image of Donald Trump laying in a casket. Another shows the White House on fire. A third is a parody of the American flag with skulls in place of the stars and bombs dropping from the stripes. I think that's probably fair. Alongside ads for a multitude of products such as car and shampoo, giant billboards, which are apparently violent, if you believe the headline, have become familiar sights to the people of Tehran in recent years. But since the country's supreme leader, Ayatollah Khamenei, was killed in an airstrike on the first day that the war launched by the United States and Israel, the messaging has become bolder. The tone has become more violent during the almost 6-month conflict, which was going to be over almost immediately. I've got a little sort of montage of that for you. There you go. So there are people wandering around there. They seem like there are people that are doing their thing. Here's the United States and the White House on fire. There's a bunch of people in coffins, got people's faces on it. Yeah, I mean, they're in a war footing. They're getting bombed. Doesn't mean I'm sympathetic to Iran. I don't actually feel one way or another about it. I just feel like maybe we shouldn't have been there. One busy intersection shows a huge billboard. Oh, come back here. featuring benign images of Khomeini when he was replaced with one of Trump's in a casket, his hands laying over his belly. Oh, there it is. Okay, so you guys can see this on the screen. This is casket. There's some graffiti on it, and then it looks like Trump laying in it. Yeah, I guess that's a violent one. It pictures the White House in flames with blood for blood and an eye for an eye written in both Persian and Hebrew. You can see who the goal or who they're trying to deliver that to. There's your bombs and your skulls and your thing from the page. Here's "Revenge is inevitable" in English, written up on the billboard that's running across both sides of the street. Donald Trump getting choked by a dozen people. Those hands all look white. There's what looks like an American soldier, skull in the water. Yeah, okay, so they're involved in this. Oh, there's the bomb dropping one. That's actually kind of a cool little "Down with the USA," it says. I mean, if you took the "Down with the USA" part out, the skulls and the bombs is kind of cool. But that's what people are seeing because they're involved in a war that apparently we had already won. So that's strange for those of us that are paying attention. And they have to have their missiles. I mean, we can't just not have missiles, right? This is the MOU, him discussing, we'll see you in France for the signing. This is 60 days ago.
See how it all goes. I think it's going to go well, but we'll see. So I will see you guys at Versailles.
Can I follow up quickly on something you said in the press conference? You said you don't mind Iran having ballistic missiles. Can you elaborate on that? I want to make sure we understand your position.
No, I'm saying that if other countries have them, it's a little bit unfair for them not to have some.
Yeah, that's what war's about.
A ballistic missile is not the same thing as what we're talking about when we talk nuclear. But if Saudi Arabia and Qatar and they all have some, I would say in relative proportion, I think it's okay. That's what I mean.
Yep. And then those ballistic missiles, they don't kill the planet. They just kill American soldiers, airmen, Marines. It's only fair.
So we have them in a position that they don't have any military. There's not a thing they can do about it. All they have is fake news because they have the fake news, would rather see us lose the war than win the war, which is really treasonous in a certain way. So we're doing another very major attack tonight. They want to make a deal. They came back. We made a deal 2 days ago, and they want to make a deal. They've been negotiating for 47 years, but nobody's ever hit them militarily. We're hitting them very hard. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you very much.
Yeah, that's smart. So anyway, we're totally not getting lied to there. New recruits are joining the military in big numbers, but not for the reasons that Pete Hegseth says. The economy is driving young Americans' enlistment, according to Pentagon data, because they find out what motivates people to go. I remember when I went in 2009, we were right in the middle of the global war on terror. There was a very likelihood that everybody who was signing up was, they were jumping into a wartime military. We had a war for at least another decade after that. And the number one reason I saw around me was people wanted to get their college paid for. That was in the Air Force. The Air Force is full of a bunch of people that didn't plan on going to war. They thought I was a weirdo. I wanted to go to war. That was my whole point. But here you go. People are signing up because it's too expensive. And the military has historically always been a stable income. It provides housing and food. If you're coming out of high school and you don't know what your options look like, it's not a terrible place to go. And there's all kinds of benefits to it. I went to a national park or a nationally run, whatever, what have they called? Army Corps of Engineer site the other day, and military veterans get to go and they don't have to pay the $5 to park your car. There's like all kinds of fringe little things that go along. It's lunchtime in Northern Virginia at a high school, and the hallway is full of a cafeteria, buzzing with students finishing homework, friends joking, playing online, blah, blah, blah. Tech Sergeant Omar Herrera, an Air Force recruiter, has arranged his table with the standard fare of glossy brochures, a foam model of fighter jets, and the Air Force and Space Force branded water bottles that students could earn with a round of push-ups. It should be pull-ups, but whatever. The Marine Corps always did pull-ups. The scene is strikingly low-key, almost at odds with the life-altering decisions that many teenagers wandering past his table are weighing. When they stop, he answers questions, explains the Air Force job opportunities with an encyclopedic knowledge of making a career out of the military, which he was passionate about and eager to share. Yeah, recruiters, man. They're something, aren't they? I was telling somebody the other day, I had an experience. I remember going back in. I was in Eagle Rock. It was just, I was living in Burbank, California at the time, and I was working for Warner Brothers. And I went into a recruiter's office after already dealing with the Navy, and the Navy was a disaster area. This guy was this black dude, and he was just like, when we going to make you a SEAL, player? Hey, come on, player, when you going to sign a contract? It's like, dude, stop. Just stop. I'm a grown-up. I don't know what you're doing. I went into the Air Force thing, and this little Filipino guy comes out, and he's like 4'10", and he probably weighs about like 93 pounds, maybe. It's this tiny little dude. And he walks up and he speaks to me in broken English. And he's like, whatever he said. And he was a nice guy. I ended up dealing with him for a while. He was a staff sergeant. And I was like, hey, I need to speak to someone who's smarter than you are. And he looked at me, nodded, and then he went back into the office and he came out with their master sergeant, the NCOIC of the station. It was really funny. He was a power lifter. He was also pretty small, but he was a cool guy. His name was McCool. And I'll remember that. He came out. He was like, did you ask to speak to someone smarter than my guy? And I go, yeah. And he goes, okay. All right. Well, what do you need? The Air Force was smart about recruiting. They recognized. That's the thing. Imagine this. Imagine if somebody said, hey, I need to speak to someone smarter than you. And you were like, there are obviously people who are smarter than me in this building. We're all about numbers. We're trying to recruit people. This guy looks like he's talking about something. I'm going to go get someone smarter. The end. This is above my ability to deal with. And I was the entire time. I dealt directly with the master sergeant the whole time I was doing my DEP program, the delayed enlistment. Imagine if people in our government actually had the humility to recognize is like, yeah, there are people that need to do this job. I'm just not capable of doing it. It's the opposite of the DEI thing that we saw at the beginning. It's the opposite of Jason Arday, the fake professor who lies about his background. This dude was a staff sergeant in the Air Force. He knew more about the Air Force than me, but he wasn't the right guy to solve my problem, and he knew it, and he wasn't offended by that. He was just like, yeah, I have broken English, and I'm this tiny little dude. I'm gonna go get a guy who's like a little bit more aggressive and lifts weights. No ego. He handled my paperwork. When I had a problem, I went to the master sergeant. The end. That was it. It was an accurate self-assessment. That should be lauded. It's oftentimes not. In any case, there you go. There's Tech Sergeant Herrera. You guys don't know how Air Force rank works. It's E6. We do. Senior Airman, Staff Sergeant, Tech Sergeant. There he is. I don't know why they're wearing multis. I actually really hate this for whatever it's worth for all the people that did the GWAT thing. The multicam used to be the cool guy stuff. Now everybody wears it. And they're wearing it inside. Anyway. I had the old woodland camo. I had ABUs, but I also had the woodland. In any case, I had BDUs. I still have BDUs sitting out there in my garage. Long and short of it, Defense Secretary Pete Hegg says he's an Army National Guard veteran. He's repeatedly elevated military recruiting success as a marquee achievement under his tenure and folded recruiting as an apolitical function of the military, part of the broader culture war. But the problem is they say that like they're fixing the military and that's why people are showing up. And the argument here is that when you talk about the polls, you can talk about money, but men and women in serving and putting on the uniform, it's a reflection of belief they have in the civilian leadership and the military leadership at the time. Guys, I signed up under Obama. It actually has nothing to do with that. Either you believe in the mission one way or another, regardless of who the leadership is, or you're signing up for money. And a lot of the people that were around me that were in the recruiter station, they were broke. That's what they were doing. They were showing up because it's a steady paycheck where they'll feed you burritos. The burritos are not $20. They'll take it out of your paycheck or they'll give it to you in BAH and BAS. You get a basic allowance for housing, your basic allowance for subsistence, whatever they call it. That's what people do. They show up because that's an option. And it opens doors up. It pays for training. It gives you a leg up in government positions. There's a value to it. Americans everywhere are prouder than ever to serve in our unmatched military. I think that's not necessarily the case. I don't know very many people who looked. We had George Hill on the other day. George Hill talking about the betrayal of the GWAT veterans and the fact that they're building a memorial that looks like it's a golf trap, like a sand trap at a golf course. People of every generation will feel like either great or bad or I would do it, but I wouldn't recommend it for someone else again. Like I wouldn't take it back because of the things that it made me, but I wouldn't necessarily say based on the current environment, I would recommend it to my children. That's the only poll that I care about. Do veterans want to see their kids serve in the military and do they think that it's for the right reasons? Or are they like, you have no other guidance and you're like a ship adrift. And so you need some form, you need some function. We're going to send you off. The military recruiting and the rebound is real, but the reasons are far less than the political ones that Pete Hegg set this framing as. NBC News interviewed nearly 40 recruits, prospective recruits, different stages of enlistment. as long as 24 recruiters across the military and current and former defense officials. They found that young Americans are still largely making the same calculation that has driven enlistment for decades. This is not a new thing, by the way. Like I said, it's the same thing that I saw when I was there in 2009. Steady pay, education benefits, job training, and a direct path into the middle class. At least that's what it used to mean. People don't necessarily weigh whether or not the commander-in-chief is a liar or they're prosecuting a war that we ought not to be in. They look at what the job is. They look at what that job's exposure is. There's still a relatively low number of people that die in military service, even in a full-blown conflict. So they just decide whether or not it makes sense for them. If they were evaluating whether or not the commander-in-chief was a liar or making claims that were not true, then they would look at stuff like this, and they'd be wondering, should I be a police officer? If it was just about, hey, we need to stop the bad guys, then maybe they'd be signing up to be in the FBI so they could go after the sleeper cells. Do you remember the Iranian sleeper cells? Am I the only one that remembers this? There are sleeper cells of Iranian activists and operatives that are ready to kill Americans. They've just been waiting for 6 months as their country gets bombed to hell, right? Here's Donald Trump talking about the sleeper cells. And I think it's Peter Doocy asking the question.
They try to hit us back. Have you been briefed about how many Iran sleeper cells there could be inside the U.S. right now?
I have been, and a lot of people came in through Biden with this stupid open border. But we know where most of them are. We've got our eye on all of them, I think.
Is it dozens?
They came in through the open border policies of Sleepy Joe Biden, one of the worst president in the history of our country. And we've got our eyes on all of them. But the war itself is being prosecuted at a level that nobody's seen before. It's pretty amazing to watch.
Okay. So the war is being prosecuted at a level that's never been seen before. We've got our eyes on all the bad guys. Is this going to affect the election cycle? Does anybody care? Do you think it matters? Should you worry about it for the midterms? You lied about the sleeper cells. By the way, that was in March. The sleeper cell comment. They've got their eyes on them. How many Iranian sleeper cells have been arrested? None. Joe Kent went out the other day and said it on social media. He was like on X saying, yeah, whatever happened to these Iranian hit squads that were running around that were going to do all this dangerous stuff? And then Laura Loomer pointed out that they arrested one during the campaign in 2024, and he was such an Iranian sleeper cell that he was actually a Pakistani guy. And he was so capable of executing a assassination attempt in America that he actually tried to hire hitmen who were FBI agents or FBI undercovers for the Joint Terrorism Task Force. So we just get this garbage. We just get this lie after lie after lie. Anyway, at least though we don't care about the midterms,
We
right?
could go in. I mean, if they hit, we would hit back 100 times harder.
What if it's right before the midterms? Do you care?
Well, it could be, but people are looking at gasoline prices. That's all they're looking at. They like the fact that I'm stopping this lunatic nation from having an atomic bomb. If you look, they cannot have nuclear weapons. It's very simple. And I say it all the time. They say, well, if we could get out of the war. I said, is it okay for Iran to have a nuclear weapon? No way. We don't want. As soon as you hear that, everybody agrees with it. We are doing really great with the Hormuz Strait. We have a blockade that is like a wall of steel. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. And we're doing very well in Iran.
And we just blew through the 60-day bit. I'll get to the worst thing that he did over the weekend, because again, telling people you're not going to apologize for failure. I don't know if they put him in an insulated bubble, or he can't hear it, or he just doesn't remember any criticism, or he refuses to acknowledge it. But we're just living in this silly moment. Here's Fox News doing a fluff about the signature of the MOU 60 days ago that we've now blown through, and we're not going to have it. We're actively involved in the conflict. It's just as big as it has been. Here we go.
With the signing ceremony for the Memorandum of Understanding between the United States and Iran just 48 hours away, some of the details in this agreement are starting to leak. Axios reports it will include immediately opening the Strait of Hormuz and the eventual U.S. naval blockade lifting. Also, it will go into a negotiation period of 60 days. This window to figure out the details of Iran's nuclear enrichment and disposal. There will also be sanctions relief included in a tiered system and a ceasefire on all fronts, including Israel and Lebanon. Now,
all right, so let's just read what we have on the screen. We're going to resumption of traffic in the Strait of Hormuz. That is stopped. End of the U.S. blockade on Iran. That's been reinstated. Renegotiate the nuclear enrichment and disposal. Who cares? Because we've just gone through the 60-day window and we've got no agreement there. Sanctions relief and the release of the Iranian frozen assets. Okay. ceasefire between Israel and Hezbollah in Lebanon. So basically, 0 things accomplished, it sounds like.
Vice President J.D. Vance was on the 5 last night and said this about the equation for Iran to receive sanctions relief.
So the United States wins either way. As the president said, either they get nothing, we destroyed their nuclear program and the Straits of Hormuz are open, or they fundamentally transform themselves, and that's a big win too. It's really up to them.
The largest X factor here is Iran's nuclear program. Over the next 60 days, the details of that program are set to be discussed. But in the past, the Iranians have been unwilling to make serious concessions. President Trump said Tuesday the U.S. will go into Iran, get their highly enriched uranium, and destroy it. It's not clear if Iran agreed to this point. He also spoke about the timeline for the broader deal.
Here we go.
It's a 60-day period or so. I think it's going to happen fairly on time. We've been both involved. I think they're going to want to get it done. Iran wants to get it done. They have to get back to business. And the relationship is now normalized. So I think it's going to go pretty quickly.
There are a lot of open questions here, Brian, when we talk about this agreement. One has to do with Lebanon. And the reality is, overnight, the IRGC was still threatening to launch new attacks in the region if the Israelis continued to target Hezbollah in Lebanon. Additionally, there are reports of the Iranians launching drones toward commercial shipping vessels in the Strait of Hormuz.
60 days ago, we were talking about, I think it's going to get done pretty on time. It's going to be pretty good. Pretty good. This is 4 hours ago. I just typed in Iran negotiations just to see what the first headline that popped up, and this is it. Trump threatens to bomb Oman if it gets in the way of U.S.-Iranian negotiations. So now we're threatening to bomb other countries just because what the hell? Yeah, we're in. Do we need a breather? I feel like we need a breather. Okay, let me just do a quick one here. So you guys, you can like us on YouTube and on Rumble, subscribe, etc. You'll hear an ad on the audio platforms. We'll insert that now. Apple, iHeartRadio, Spotify, etc. Adjust your volumes accordingly. Here's a space. Okay. So you've been warned. I feel like we need like a little bit of a
5 a.m. You boys asleep.
Oh my God. I think we need like a little musical interlude. I think I've got one here too. So let's do, here's Donald Trump, The War as an emo song. Let's do it.
With Operation Epic Fury.
It's only good if you win, and we won in the first hour. Open the fucking Strait, you crazy bastards, or you'll be living in hell. Just watch! A whole civilization will die tonight, never to be brought back again. I don't want that to happen, but it probably will. Iran is charging seas to tankers going through the Hormuz Strait. They better not be in, and if they are, they better stop now. The leadership is dead. The Strait of Hormuz will soon be open. Iran decided to fire bullets yesterday in the Strait of Hormuz, a total violation of our ceasefire agreement. No more Mr. Nice Guy! They'll come down fast, they'll come down easy, and if they don't take the deal, it will be my honor to do what has to be done. We're fighting wars we can't take care of. Daycare. Anyone sick of winning yet?
It's pretty good. So there you go. That was early on, by the way. Like they need an updated version of this. The tweets have gotten dumber as time has gone on, so I'm pretty excited about that. Let's do a dumb tweet here. Here we go. Donald Trump says, based on my very good relationship with Kim Jong-un of North Korea, I am not happy with the fact that the United States has long ago agreed to participate in joint military exercises with South Korea. If you're a military veteran who served in Korea, feel free to opine below. I would very much appreciate your comments. These exercises are not only costly, with much of these costs paid for by the United States of America, as usual, but send a signal that is totally inappropriate and hostile to a country, capitalize the word C for no reason, that, as long as Donald J. Trump has been president, has been unthreatening and respectful. And therefore, and based on the fact that there is too late to cancel, I've instructed the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, to substantially reduce the joint military exercises. While somewhat unrelated, I recently asked the president of South Korea if they would like to join us in the denuclearization of the Islamic Republic of Iran, and they said, no thanks. Thank you for your attention to this matter, Donald J. Trump. If you're wondering, the United States is apparently going to pull out or reduce substantially the size of the joint exercises that we do in South Korea, which is a thing that happens all the time. Fine. But sure. We invited South Korea to get involved in our mess, and they're like, yeah, pass. And then Trump is pissed about it, so he's just like rage tweeting. This is like scorned girlfriend stuff. President cited the U.S. allies' refusal to join the war in Iran and his very good relationship with North Korea's Kim Jong-un. Why don't we ask North Korea to join us? Maybe we could see if North Korea wants to help us denuclearize Iran. We have such a good relationship with them. That would be good. That seems more fair than asking like someone who's a legitimate ally. Could we do that? Anybody? Start sending your tweets to Donald Trump to see if we can get the Kim Jong-un bump. Maybe they'll send some troops down there. This thing keeps running away from me. Donald Trump said Sunday that he directed the Defense Department to scale down the joint military exercises with South Korea, citing the U.S. allies' refusal. He said that the large annual military drill sent a signal that's totally inappropriate and hostile to North Korea, a nuclear-armed state, which the United States has no formal diplomatic ties. We've lost the thread. But Donald Trump has said has been unthreatening and respectful as long as he's been president, based on the fact that it's too late to cancel it. Mm-hmm. I love the somewhat unrelated question mark. It's in parentheses, guys. Question mark. I asked South Korea to join us. So it's not unrelated, or it might be, or he's not sure if it is, or it is, but he's being funny about it. It wasn't immediately clear what the scaled down version of the training would look like. The South Korean Defense Ministry said the drills, known as Uchi Freedom Shield, planned to last until August 27th. We're proceeding as planned. But Donald Trump tweeted about it, so that's good. What do we think about that MOU? How do we evaluate the MOU?
Yeah, I want to look at this from a little more of a simplistic perspective. Iran has to be in a weaker position coming out of this than they were before, or it's going to be viewed as being a loss. There's been a lot of comparison to the JCPOA and obviously that deal. But to me, if you're looking at it from an American's perspective, they've had to pay more at the pump. Inflation is still there. They're going to look at this and say, did we get a better deal than we had before? And you look at the cost of this, it's been over $100 billion to taxpayers. And Iran has to be in a substantively weaker position coming out of this than they were before. I don't care about all the other comparisons. Iran needs to be in a debilitated state. They can't win the negotiation. So right now, we don't know what is in the memorandum. We don't know if it's a page and a half. We don't know anything about it, really. But at the end of it,
I think we can definitively say that they're in a worse state than when this started. I mean, they have no Navy. Their Air Force was destroyed. They've definitely had diminished use of missiles. They still have capability that we've seen fired on U.S. bases and others. They're in an economic real pinch, one would think. But you're saying if they win the negotiation as far as landing on their feet.
Right. If we are rebuilding Iran and putting them back into a position where we've debilitated them, but we're building them back up again, is that winning the negotiation? Again, the military has done, as you noted, has done a phenomenal job, and we have won this in every tactical way possible. But the success of this is going to be determined by the negotiating process. And where does Iran sit in regard to a nuclear weapon? Where do they sit in regard to receiving funds that are going to help rebuild the nation?
And there you have Fox News and Brett Baier trying desperately to try to say that they've been destroyed. They have no Air Force. They have no Navy. They're destroyed. There's nothing left of them. They are.
So we have them in a position that they don't have any military. None. There's not a thing they can do about it.
What are we doing?
All they have is fake news because
they got the fake news. So I guess that wins. Listen, who needs fake news? Who needs anybody else working negative headlines against Donald Trump when the guy goes out and says stuff like this? Snapshots, sound bites. Daniel 292 used to know what this was about. Someone should have told this guy not to say stuff like this, but he can't help himself. Say gasoline.
So I just say this. So for you to pay a tiny little bit more for your gasoline,
Stop bitching.
Just remember, you're doing it so that a very evil country cannot have a country. Really, it's the number one state sponsor of terror in the world. We don't want to have them have a nuclear weapon. So remember that when you have to pay a little bit more, you're at $4. It's okay. I mean, it's. I'm not. I'll never apologize. I did the right thing.
What? You'll never apologize because you did the right thing? Just a tiny little bit more. It's just twice what you were paying. Quit bitching.
So I just say this. So for you to pay a tiny little bit more for your gasoline.
For your gasoline. When do you think the last time Donald Trump pumped his own gasoline was? Also, considering the fact that he's getting all of his vehicles, it's paid for by us at this point, so he has no idea, but that's a hell of a claim. That will be played over and over again. It will be a nonstop loop of stupidity. Because there's just no upside to doing stuff like that. Like, no one makes you say these things. No one makes you feel that out. Nobody says you have to be that out of touch. Republicans care about you. Let me remind you. This is one of the good ones, okay? There's a lot of rhinos out there, but this is one of the great ones. This is a good one. And he cares about you.
With the demise of Beth, I thought I'd be able to use my 1966 Electrolux, but it doesn't work either. So I'm going to have to wait until somebody gives me a used Hoover. I thought this backup that my mother bought me in the 1960s would work until I got a new Hoover, but it just isn't going to work out that way.
That was Chuck Grassley. His 1966 vacuum is not working, guys. He was 32, 33 years old when he got that vacuum from his mommy. He's almost 100 years old. And he's just falling apart. But he's one of the good ones. He thought he was going to get a new Hoover, but someone going to give him a used Hoover, Hoover. Nobody calls them Hoovers anymore. They haven't called them that in over 40 years when you should have retired. Reminds me that the people that are supposed to be solving the problems are so old that if they're not dead, they're brain dead. Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear says Sunday that he hadn't heard back from Senator Mitch McConnell following formal requests for updates on his health after the weeks-long hospitalization that prompted widespread speculation and concern that he's freaking dead because he disappeared and he's probably dead and he hasn't been in contact with the governor. Mitch McConnell is 84 years old. He's a decade younger. He was only in his 20s when the Betsy Electrolux piece of shit vacuum that Chuck Grassley is still carrying around was given to him. I've heard absolutely nothing back from Mitch McConnell, Beshear said on Face the Nation with Margaret Brennan. Mitch McConnell, 84, was hospitalized on June the 14th, and then he's basically been MIA since then. His staff has shared little about his condition, but they did put out a couple of AI-generated proofs of life, which look ridiculous. Mitch McConnell put out his first statement since his hospitalization after Beshear wrote a letter July 8th saying, "Hey, what's up, dude? Is you dead? Is you still breathing? Is or is you not still in the constituency?" That was like a, oh brother, we're out there kind of. Days later, McConnell put out his first statement, which said there was a fall. He was moved to a rehab center, and they didn't do CPR, even though people had reported he had done CPR, even though there was audio tape of the paramedics claiming there was CPR in progress. And so, anyway, nobody thinks he's alive. McConnell is a childhood polio survivor. I don't know why that's in the article. Earlier this month, McConnell, a childhood polio survivor. He's also the survivor of several swimming pools that had dirt in them and potentially other people. What a weird little thing to like drop in there, polio survivor. Is that why he looks like he does? Mitch McConnell, the human turtle? They released a statement saying that he'd been hospitalized and then discharged and then put in the rehab center. And then nearly 2 months later, he was hospitalized. He was going to recover at home. And then he just stopped talking to everybody. And so I guess his staff is still running. And Kentucky's running without a senator. That checks. Because these guys aspire to die in office. When will they announce that he's dead, do you think? When will they wheel him out in a chair like on life support? Or are we going to get like a shot while he actually kicks off and they're going to do like the scene from Dave where they wheel out the body? And they're like, oh, he was alive, but now he's not alive. Kentuckians have been increasingly concerned about the current state of your health and your well-being, said Bashir, a Democrat, as well as your ability to hold office in the United States Senate. As governor, he requested that the senator fully update Kentuckians regarding his current status of his health. He urged McConnell to directly and verbally address his constituents and provide proof of his ability to continue to serve. We don't have a mechanism to kick these people out. Guys, we can't vote our way out of it because we can't even get a dude who's 84 years old and probably dead out of the seat because they lock their death gripped skeletons into the chair. It's crazy. Oh, saying a true thing. Kentucky governor says this is why the Senate, the Republican-controlled Senate, you gave him an opportunity to do it, so he's going to say it, feels so broken. And they feel like they're not accountable to anyone. These are all true, by the way. It has nothing to do with the Republicans in my book. All he needs to do is call into the show for 2 minutes, or Fox News for 2 minutes, or do a 2-minute video interview with the people he's supposed to serve, but he refuses to do it. Probably because he's dead, right? If he's alive, in what under what condition is he alive? We saw him when he was alive, and he just is like, he looks like he looks like a failing animatronic system. He looks like he's more beat up than the Small World After All animatronics in Disneyland from the 1950s that hadn't been properly lubricated or oiled. He's the Terminator at the end of the Terminator when it's just the skeleton just crawling towards its final objective and it just gets crushed. He's functionally gone. As the leader of the Senate, you got a duty to make sure your senators are in the capacity to serve, don't you? John Thune, also not solving the problem. Yeah. So when I say that I don't think we're voting our way out of it, it's because I don't think our votes actually count. And when they do, they put someone in there forever till they die. And nobody seems too worried about it. This is not the top news story of the day. Missing U.S. senator has been AWOL for weeks. Who cares? He's just one of 100 people that make it's a country of 330 million people. There's 535 people that have an actual vote on anything that we sub out our ability. And one of those people, one of 535 people is just nobody knows. Might be dead. Might not be dead. Probably dead. Probably dead. So what's our president doing? Oh yeah, he's pushing this stuff out. Donald Trump has hinted at a 2028 presidential run on Truth Social because he has about a 30% approval rating. He'll be 82 years old. And what everybody wants is more of this bullshit, I guess. There has to be a market for this. There has to be a market for old guy wearing a ridiculous hat. I don't get it. I am deeply confused about where this comes from. But it's there. It's an actual thing that people cheer on the idea of Donald Trump one more time. Here he is putting the hat on, and they shared this. What did they say? I think the Polymarket said that he would have a 5% chance of winning if he tried to run again, even though he can't run again.
Now I'm going to do it again.
Oh, he's trolling everybody.
Thank you. I'm going to do it. Should be easy. I'm getting very good at running for president. No, I won 3 times, did very well the second time, by the way. It's a rigged election, but we don't have to talk about it. It's interesting when you come back and you do a good job like we did, and you don't care about it so much, but we do have to tighten up these elections because they really are in serious.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So we need to tighten up because we need to worry about those elections. That was one of the things that we were going to get. That was one of the things that I remember, a core promise. It was number 19. I've said it so many times, I remember it off the top of my head. Secure. So the whole trolling idea, you put on the hat, you're trolling everybody. It's an opportunity for you to talk about it, right? Okay. He's not funny, so it's not a good joke. The joke is not clever. It's not amusing. It's not funny. And it also gives you an opportunity to talk about something which is actually a failure. Secure our election, including same-day voting, voter identification, paper ballots, proof of citizenship. We will secure our elections, and they will be secure once and for all. That's what he said in October of 24 in Prescott, Arizona, apparently. Donald Trump implemented nationwide election integrity measures through executive action, banning foreign nationals from election interference, strengthening voter citizenship verification, prosecuting non-citizen voting, requiring voter verified paper ballot records, ensuring state-by-state compliance with federal law. Well, that's it then, guys. He did it. He freaking did it. He did it in July of last year. So why are they crying about the Save America Act? Why is it even a thing being discussed? He already did it through executive action. They already kept the promise of election security. Still think we're winning? Meanwhile, I'll punch anybody who says stupid things. Steve Bannon apparently is still selling the slop. And here's what it sounds like.
I haven't said we're going to amend the Constitution. We're working on 5 or 6 different alternatives that President Trump could run again and be president. And quite frankly, I think 4 or 5 of them are going to work. And I continue to say, as I told Bill Maher, on the afternoon of January 20th of 2029, Donald Trump's going to be president for his 3rd term.
Who is the market for this dog shit? Honest to God. It's huge, by the way. There's a huge market. Fox News, the Glenn Becks, the Daniel Bonginos. There are millions of people that are hearing this and they're cheering it on. They're cheering on absolute nonsense. Trump 2028. That's where we're at. There it is. And by the way, if you didn't see on the bottom of this little post that he has, this is shared from True Social. It says, "We are going to win." I thought we already won in Iran, right? Isn't that the deal? We're winning so much that we have people like this working as a cabinet level person. This is Kelly Loeffler.
We're all ready, so.
Administrator, we have some questions for you here at TikTok.
What's going on, Mac?
First of all, are you in the cabinet?
Well, actually I am. After I had an incredible conversation with the president by phone to become SBA administrator, he texted me and said, actually, you're going to be in the cabinet. That's a really big deal.
The Small Business Administration administrator with a 3-foot-long neck is going to be in the cabinet. That's a really big deal. So we're releasing a TikTok self-hype video from the SBA Gov account with some doofus standing behind a camera asking, "Are you in the cabinet?" And then the administrator saying, "I'm in the cabinet." I told you guys a long time ago that I think that the transgender movement has been the worst thing for like homely or masculine men, women. It's like it makes everybody doubt it. If you wear too much makeup, men think that you're a man. If you have a huge neck and you're 6'3", people think that you're actually a man. If you're wearing high heels like it's the first time, like if you wear high heels as poorly as I would wear high heels, having no experience walking in high heels, people think you're a man. I don't know what this man's name is. Supposedly it's Kelly Loeffler. Married to some dude. By the way, one of the things I really loved about this story, you're in the cabinet. Do you guys want to know why I think this is gross? Let me just finish this nasty video first.
And it is because the SBA administrator isn't guaranteed a spot in the cabinet.
Not always in the cabinet, but I'm in the cabinet.
Because President Trump knows that small business is big business, this is a cabinet spot now.
What's your favorite thing about being small business administrator?
What do you love about doing the job that you get to do?
Well, obviously being out with small businesses.
Obviously, if I'm in the Small Business Association, I love being part of the Small Business Association and being around small businesses, businessy businesses.
Whether I'm walking a factory floor with...
Whether I'm walking around through this hallway, which has pictures of me in it, because I'm a freaking bizarre narcissist about to headbutt some of these broken ceiling tiles.
Small manufacturer, or in a small family-owned generation.
I could be in a family-owned Generation Farms
restaurant. I can see the impact that the SBA is having through the work that our team does every day.
Last question.
There was first question was, are you in the cabinet? The second question is like, what's your favorite thing about your job? And the third question is how tall are you?
How tall are you?
With or without heels? Let's just say without heels, I'm 5'11".
Let's just say I've headbutted 3 giraffes in my life. Yeah.
Thank you for your time.
Oh my God, like I work for you. It's amazing. Everything about this, like This is the people we have. We got the young lady who came out of Congress with some weird, stupid, like self-serving, are you in the cabinet? Are you running? It's just perfect because I'm running. Will she be doing that? And then Chuck Grassley, who's like, I had this vacuum cleaner in 1966. My mother gave it to me as a gift when I was 33 years old. It was my favorite birthday. It's when I turned the Jesus age. And I had this vacuum cleaner and I thought I could clean up some things, but now maybe someone could give me a Hoover. Who is this lady? Here she is. There she is. It's Kelly Loeffler. She looks less crazy here. Her neck doesn't look like it's 3 feet long. It looks like it's 1 foot long. Maybe you shouldn't have people who are shorter than you shooting the TikTok video. This is like basic stuff. You should have shot that from an upper angle, shooting downward. Shooting from the lower angle makes you look like a person who headbutts giraffes. So anyway, I was really curious. I was like, okay, what's the thing? Why is there a section in her Wikipedia called political donations? According to Open Secrets, as of December of 2019, Loeffler and her husband donated $3.2 million to political committees. That's a shitload of money to give away. $3.2 million. 97% of these went to Republicans, 3% to Democrats, including Hillary Clinton. Oh, that was smart. Chris Dodd. All right. So there's that. She donated $750,000 to a super PAC for Mitt Romney called Restore Our Future. In May of 2020, Loeffler's husband gave $1 million to Trump's reelection super PAC. It was his largest federal donation to date. In June 2025, following her confirmation as the head of the Small Business Administration, Loeffler and her husband each donated $2.5 million to MAGA Inc., a super PAC that supports Donald Trump. Each. She was confirmed as the head of the Small Business Administration, and then, like magically, she got put in the cabinet after her and her husband gave a combined total of $5 million to the MAGA super PAC that supports Donald Trump. What in the actual F? And she can headbutt a giraffe. You guys want to see her one more time?
We're all ready, so.
Okay. Administrator, we have some questions for you here at TikTok.
What's going on, Max?
TikTok questions?
First of all, are you in the cabinet?
Well, actually, I am.
After we gave $5 million to Donald Trump, then we were in the cabinet. And like, you're not always in the cabinet, but he called me up and he was like, hey, you tall, weird lady, now you're in the cabinet. Thanks for the $5 million. NBD. Anyway, what a cool way to go. And then just so you guys think that it's not just one crazy thing, this is We the Brandon, who apparently is an op like me. He said they're going to write histories about America's first actual mad president. This is a Donald Trump hump. What do you call it? Like humpy site. They're like a leg humper meat rider site that Bobby Sauce calls bricked up for Trump all the time. He's just like fully erect, super excited. Donald Trump posted a video of himself made with AI giving George Washington a tour of the new White House ballroom, which is under construction. There's no actual useful audio. It's just this weird, nonsensical Donald Trump with fake George Washington. He's taller than George Washington. I think George Washington was actually taller than Trump, but they're wandering through a fake ballroom. This is the second cringiest thing to Glenn Beck interviewing George Washington in a blue t-shirt. So here we go. The leg humper meat rider audience exists. This is what it looks like. It's this guy. It's hard to fathom that these people are real human beings, but there he is. That doofus hair. That's Florida's voice. They make tons of money on this stuff. That's the reason why it continues to exist. So for whenever you guys are listening and you're like, how are these people this dumb? They're not. They're not actually this dumb. They're just disingenuous and gross. So I hope that was fun. All right, we got two things. We're going to remind you to get after your Fs if you haven't been doing it already. Your ability to solve problems at the national level exists not at all. Chuck Grassley can't even figure out how to get a freaking vacuum that works, and he's a senator, and he's been a senator for longer than most of you have been alive. So let that be a warning to you. The Fs are as follows. Faith. Maybe pray the rosary for this country. That's what we did this morning on Sunday morning. Took my kids to church early. We sat and said the rosary with the lady leading it. That was a nice little kind of moment. Phone off. Focus some things on your faith because you can do it. It's yours. It's free. Just takes time. Your family, same deal. Get away. Faraday bag up the phone. Get away from the distractions. Do some family stuff. Honest to God, it's what's keeping me sane, because if I just did this all day long, I would absolutely lose my ever-loving freaking mind. Work on your fitness. That's what's coming up next for me. It's 10:30 here in Central Time. I'm going to hit the gym. I'm going to go destroy myself shortly. I do a negative split 3-mile run every Monday or Tuesday. It's my first fitness of the week. That's what I get after it with. So I'll be running that. I'm working on getting under 7-minute miles. Find a goal, whatever it is. My buddy just told me he ran 8 miles this weekend. Freaking awesome. Like, find something and get after it. I've got a guy who's going to give you some motivation on that. But then get your firearms going. You can buy a suppressor. You can go to somebody who sells silencer shop. We'll do more on that in a bit. I'm going to see if I can get somebody to come on and talk about it with me. We might even see, this is my hope, if we can actually do a live broadcast from the silencer shop showroom. I want to see if the founder of Silencer Shop will come and tell his story. It's actually really good. It's a really good story. It's highly entertaining, and their shop is awesome. So I'm going to work on that. I ran into their social media guy over the weekend. But work on your fitness and your firearms. Those things go hand in hand. It should be pretty easy. It's tough right now in Texas where it's 100 degrees, but yeah, we can get there. And then, store some food. You'd be crazy if you weren't looking at the same mentality of 2024 and thinking, well, we solved it all. Because we're this far away from snapping back, as Daniel Bongino 292 just told you. As soon as the other team takes over, then they're going to do the thing to do. They're going to kick out all the people. They're going to go down. They're going to rip it out root and stem. They're going to get down to the branches, and they're going to find all the people that were involved, and they're going to try to turn the machine back over, because we didn't de-weaponize government, it turns out. You can't say that you de-weaponize government, problem named, and then promise kept, when you're worried about somebody else coming in and doing the same problem again. It turns out they're not compatible ideas. So there you have it. All right. And then, let's have some fun with it. How about this? This is a dude called the King of Boston. He got told you can't shit talk if you don't have your friends. So he got some friends. This is very short. And then we'll have our last little bit here as a completely unrelated piece here.
It's 5 a.m. You boys are sleeping. I'm getting fucking busy.
Bro, get some friends.
Fuck you, bro.
5 a.m. You boys are sleeping. We're getting fucking busy.
Bro, you're unemployed.
That should be your attitude. When someone tells you you're not fit enough, F you, bro. Get after it, folks. All right, last little bit. Hunter Biden's PR team has been getting some work done. This is some behind-the-scenes things. He's gone out with Nick Fuentes. He went and did a thing with Tucker Carlson. They're rehabilitating the image of Hunter Biden, who is a widow-banging, crackhead, former guy who collects money all over the planet, part of the amateur hour Biden crime family before the Trumps came in and showed what the professionals could do. Anyway, they're working their best to try to bump up his image. This is what the PR team might be involved in.
Good job on Fauci, guys. He didn't say a goddamn thing. Sir, Hunter Biden just debated Nick Fuentes. Oh, God.
Oh, how dilated were his pupils?
Not that bad, actually. Oh. What's up? I'm Tim, and I run the PR team for Hunter Biden. We can't remind people that he raw dogged his dead brother's ex-wife.
We should parlay this into something bigger. He should run.
We do need a liberal Joe Rogan.
Joe Rogan was the liberal Joe Rogan.
Yeah, he was until he wasn't allowed to hump that stool and take ivermectin.
Crazy that they want him to run for president. I mean, people would rather an honest crackhead than a Puerto Rican woman. I mean, they're both mentally unstable, so it doesn't...
Him talking to Nick Fuentes was nuts.
Yeah, one guy's a virgin basement dweller and the other bangs hookers for sport.
I mean, I feel bad for Joe. Imagine being the president and you're not even the most interesting guy in your family. My only concern about Hunter in the White House is if he relapses. I mean, I don't want to walk into a pawn shop someday and see the Resolute desk behind glass.
In his defense, Hitler was on stimulants too. How the fuck is that a defense?
We can all admit he looks great for 56.
Dude, he looks great for being addicted to crack.
I actually used to take Hunter Biden's drug test for him. That's how I found out I was pregnant in 2019.
Of course he's an addict. His brother died from brain cancer, his mom died in a car wreck, and his stepmom's a bitch.
Do you think Hunter even worries about his girlfriend checking through his phone now, or?
Yeah, babe, here, you can have it. Or you can just check Twitter.
If he runs in 2028, I made the perfect playlist. Whitney Houston, Amy Winehouse, Rick James, less classic rock and more crack rock. All right, what's going on?
We're trying to come up with ways to keep Hunter sober.
We could start with his dad telling him that he's proud of him.
Let's see if he can form that full sentence.
Okay. Yeah.
Addiction runs in the family. Joe Biden spent $10,000 on chocolate chip ice cream in 2020. That's a real fact. It's not dementia, it's brain freeze.
He said the laptop wasn't his.
He also said, that wasn't mine. I never would have lost my
So cool.
The only knock on him right now is that he takes baths.
It's not the only thing.
That must be how he knows about the cabal of gay Republicans, huh?
One thing's for sure. If Hunter was president and there was a war on drugs, he would have teamed up with drugs to fight war.
I actually think he would do very well in black communities.
Why is that?
Yeah, they were in politics so long, the CIA put crack in both their pockets.
Excuse me?
No, that's not what I meant.
Hey, he said he wants to change the U.S. Capitol to Little Rock.
What?
Crazy. He's used to big rocks.
And he fucked Eddie's wife.
Damn it! Well, hey, at least he didn't wait till you're dead.
Yeah, I'd rather that! What the? It's about a fucking boat!
See? We could just laugh. You could be on the other side trying to put a crackhead into the White House and running against AOC who's trying to freeze her eggs. Like, what a dumb timeline. By the way, every time I talk to somebody that's a reporter or a journalist that's on the other side of the aisle, from where I sit, it's been pretty universal. We can all agree that this timeline is as dumb as it could get. I mean, I think we can get dumber, and I think we're going to, but it's one of the dumbest times to watch. It's so deeply unserious. Anyway, if you guys have an extra Hoover laying around, think about sending it to Chuck Grassley's cornfield or whatever, so he can go back to vacuuming his house as a 98,000-year-old senator. And I look forward to seeing you guys again tomorrow. I hope you have a fantastic day. Go get your freaking fitness on, get some friends, and get a run in or whatever. God bless you guys. We'll see you on the other side.
Thanks for listening to The Kyle Seraphin Show, streamed live weekdays on rumble.com/Kyle Seraphin. Follow Kyle on Twitter, Truth Social, and Instagram @Kyle Seraphin.